It wasn't until I was practically out of my 9 to 5 that I began to realize how my thoughts were keeping me stuck. And if you are in a space where you are feeling overworked, underpaid, and overwhelmed, and possibly facing burnout, but you are craving freedom, but still facing fear and doubt, then stay tuned because this video is probably for you. So if you are seeing me for the first time, welcome. My name's Rachel and I'm a corporate career coach. I'm a speaker, consultant, DEI specialist and criminal justice specialist. And I help overwhelmed professionals to make the transition from employee to successful business owner. I help them design their plans and strategize so that they can make a safe transition. Kind of like the architect of your freedom. Freedom architect, yeah, I like that. But I know how it feels to be in corporate spaces and feel stuck. I was in corporate for over 30 years, but it wasn't until I was able to rewire my mind for freedom that I was able to get out, and you can too. So I spent a lot of time in corporate spaces. My last stint was just under 19 years. Like, I could see the 20-year mark looming, and I just knew that I didn't want to be there to get whatever they were going to give me for 20 years. By the time I was ready to put in my resignation, I knew that I wanted to be out before my 19th work anniversary, and I was able to leave 1 month shy of it. But I was in those spaces knowing that I wanted more. I mean, I was running my business alongside my full-time job for so long, knowing that I wanted to get out, knowing that there was something else that I could be doing, but still feeling stuck. And some of the thoughts that I had ranged from, what if it doesn't work? What if I'm not able to feed myself and my kids on a monthly basis? What if it literally just flops and fails? And what if I don't have the skills to continue it? What if I don't have the energy to continue on? Until I realized that I had had enough. And I'd possibly say that I really did reach burnout. Like I said, I was running my business alongside my full-time job for quite some time until it got to the beginning of 2023. And I remember I was working from home that day, and I was sitting in my workspace at home. And I was meant to be putting together some information for a report. And I was reading the same line over and over again. Nothing was going in and nothing was coming out. And I was there for quite a while until I just thought, nah, this ain't working. This is not working. And I rang my manager and I said, I don't know what's going on, but I need some time away. And me having time away, let me just explain. I'm that person who popped paracetamols even when I was ill and would go into work. I'm that person who didn't understand how sick I had to be home. That even if I was sick, I was coming in because I wasn't hospitalized. I'm that person who, for years in a row, our organization, years before, used to give us a letter every single year. If you hadn't had any sick days, 365 days in a year, and you had no sick days, you would receive a letter. And I got that letter so many consecutive years saying, well done for not having any sick days. And myself and another colleague, we would always find each other during that period to say, have you got your letter yet? Have you got your letter yet? Sad, right? But that was me. And at the beginning of 2023, I was sitting there and I just felt like something has to give. This cannot be my life. There has to be more. And I took some time away. And during that time away was when I made the decision that 2024 was going to end very differently to how 2023 had begun. I had finally drawn the line in the sand and knew that I was worth more and was brought here for more. One of the shifts that I made was moving away from the doubt of what if it fell to what if it worked. Literally, that was the biggest mindset shift for me. I went from needing to control the outcome or thinking I was in control of the outcome when actually I was being controlled in the space that I was in, and moving away from that into curiosity. I started peering over the edge and looking at, what if I took the leap? What would that look like? What if I owned my wings? And I literally had to take pen and paper and look at the pros and cons. What were the pros and cons of staying? What were the pros and cons of me putting a plan in place and actually leaving? What would that look like? How would I feel? And one of the biggest questions that I asked myself was, if I were to be here next year, this time, in the same space, having not moved forward, how would that feel? And even worse, I looked at how would it feel in 5 years' time? What if I took the leap? The second thing I looked at, and I think sometimes we think we do it, but we don't always do it, was not waiting for somebody else to give us permission or to say that it was a good idea. Many of us think we say with our chest that, I don't need other people's approval. But when we are stuck, when we are playing small, we are literally doing it because we don't have other people's approval, or we don't want the finger pointed at us. We think we're saying we don't need permission, but the way we act, the way we behave, the choices we don't make, the decisions we don't make mean that we are literally sitting there because we want to conform and we don't want anybody to say, what on earth are you doing? And I am that kind of person naturally who will run a lot of ideas by different people. And I would go to my friends and I might go to my family members and say, what do you think about this? And I had to realize that the dreams that I had, the goals that I had for me and my immediate family were mine. They were not theirs. And a lot of the times when people tell you, I'm not too sure about that, are you sure you want to do that? It's because they can't see the dream. And the reason why they can't see the dream is because the dream was never given to them. And I had to take that step and I don't know, like wipe the dust from my eyes and realize that the only person that I had to trust in was me. Because I had the dreams, I had the ideas, I had the skills, I had the knowledge, I had the experience, and the dreams and the visions was given to me. And the third thing that I really had to get my head around in terms of a mindset shift was not needing it to be perfect and the understanding that I couldn't see every single step. It's kind of like driving down a motorway or a highway. And in some spaces, if you're in the UK and you drive down the M25, the entire highway, motorway, is not lit up. There are spaces that is just pitch black, but you keep driving at the speed limit. You keep going because you know where your destination is and you trust that there will be road ahead. And I had to get my head around not knowing every single step and taking action, even whilst knowing that it may not be perfect. It was kind of like driving down that dark highway, that dark motorway, with trust and faith that there will be road ahead in order to make progress. Because if I waited for it to be perfect, if I waited to see every single step, number one, that will never happen. And number two, I would never have made progress. So the visions I had for me was of freedom, of being able to come out here without having to negotiate annual leave, of being able to work from anywhere in the world that I wanted to without having to worry about what time do I need to come back for work, because I was working on my own time with people in my own way, with systems that I know works, without policies with hidden agendas. I needed freedom from constraints and restrictions, and I was able to get it. And so my question to you is, what does freedom look like for you? And when you're on autopilot, tap into those thoughts that you're having. Are your thoughts congruent or in line with those visions of freedom that you know you might have, or where you see yourself in a couple of years' time? The biggest lesson I learned on my journey was that freedom is not a destination. Freedom is a mindset. And it begins when you make that decision that you are worth more and you are no longer settling for what is prescribed for you in terms of a lifestyle. It's when you make the decision that you've had enough. So I ask you again, what does freedom look like for you? And are your daily actions in line with your visions of what you want your life to look like? Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video. This not used